Hello, and welcome to Seeking Heaven, the Near-Death Experience and Other Phenomena. I'm your host, Tamara Calder Richardson, and I am an evidential psychic medium, Christ Chandler, as well as multiple near-death experiencer and spiritually transformative experiencer. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe to the channel, and also like, make comments, share with your friends, and if you want to, hey, why not support the channel and becoming a member? So look at that too. And there's plenty for everybody. I have some awesome perks. So look into the membership. I have some amazing perks available. So let's go ahead and talk about our guest today. I'm very excited. And that would be Sharon Milliman. And I'm going to bring her on. But first, I want to tell you a little bit. Let me bring you that she has had 4 near-death experiences, many spiritually transformative experiences, so many so that I said, we have to do a segment just on your spiritually transformative experiences. So I'm going to bring her on. Hello, Sharon.
Hi.
So here we are again.
Well, thank you again for having me.
You're so welcome again. So look, look, pre-show, we were having too much fun. We just had to finally start this interview because part of what she's going to talk about tonight is her experiences seeing Jesus. And I get personally very excited about this topic because we just connected, I don't know, not even a month ago. I don't even know. I know I called you, but I don't remember how that happened really. But I really don't remember.
I don't either.
I don't remember. I don't even know why did I call you.
I don't know. It seems like we've known each other forever, though.
Exactly. It's kind of like, yeah, it's like, it just seems so natural. Like, well, it should be more like, why haven't I called you? And so we started talking and sharing stories and our love for Jesus and how we both have seen him. I don't think I've ever met another person. You've seen him over there, me too, in heaven, but here on earth, that's why we say people go, Christ consciousness. And I'm like, okay, that's great. But I've actually seen the man. So it was not his consciousness. It was him on planet Earth. I mean, he can do anything. So we're going to talk about that as well as your mother, Mary, which you've seen, and I've seen in a vision, which is interesting. And then your guide, which is, we've had so many similarities that I haven't quite figured it out, but it's one of those God things that'll all make sense later on because it's just really intriguing to me. I mean, it's just, I feel so validated. Like I've got this like spiritual sister, on the other side of the planet. And then also your guide, you're going to talk about how you met your guide, your Indian guide, also your Native American Indian roots, which I also have Cherokee. Yours isn't Cherokee, but you're going to talk about that and your guide, which I think is fascinating. So I'm just going to let you, take it from there. Oh, one quick thing. I want people to know, okay, near-death experiencers, especially the ones that have had multiple ones, for some reason, it's very customary for us to have lots of spiritually transformative experiences. So this is just what's happened to date. I mean, we have them all the time. We have little ones that we don't even talk about because this is, these happen all the time, including some people see UFO or they may have afterlife communication, or like you have had communication with spirits. Of course, I do this, professionally as a medium, but what I'm saying is this is not uncommon that we have these different experiences and multi-dimensions and all that. And I want people to hear, because I like your stories. Yours are really cool. And I want people to hear them because we're more than just the NDE. And these are just like the highlights, right? And and we're a living entity. We're a living spiritual being interacting with all of this. So start at any one you want to, Sharon.
Well, when I was a little girl, I used to see one of my brothers who had died when he was a baby. I was only a year old, and he used to come and play with me all the time. It was my brother Michael. My parents and my family all said he was an imaginary friend, but I knew he wasn't. He was just as solid as you are. He would come and play with me every day. Boy, we would get into some trouble. Wow. We would go into the kitchen and steal the vitamins or the brownies or whatever, but we we had a wonderful time, and he was with me for a couple years, and then we moved away, and I didn't see him anymore after that.
Okay.
I saw Gray Eagle, who was my what everybody's calling a guide. He was a lot more to me than just that.
Okay.
But I saw him twice when I was a little girl. We lived in Ohio, and we had a wheat field behind our house. And I saw him standing in the wheat field. Well, he was actually on his horse. He had a white horse, and he was on his horse, and he was watching me. I was playing in the backyard. I didn't know who he was at the time. To me, he was just a person. I didn't think anything about it. He came a second time. Only the second time he was right up close to me, and he made his horse bend its head down, and I played with the horse at the top of the horse's head, played with the horse's ears, and he just held the reins, and he smiled at me. He never said a word.
Mhm.
I was not afraid of him. I did not know who he was at the time. I was more interested, as a little girl, I was more interested in playing with the horse than
Right.
of trying to figure out who he was. And as I got older, I never thought anything more about either one of them, because I started getting really busy in my own life and raising babies and working and that kind of thing. So I didn't really, I didn't think much about my brother or Gray Eagle
How old was your
anymore.
brother when he passed?
Let's see, it was my sister, then me, and then it was my two brothers, Michael and Stephen, and then my younger sister. So it was like I was a year old when the first one passed away, and 2 years old when the second one passed away.
Wow, they were young. My goodness.
Yeah,
You
they
have
were they
difficult.
were just, I mean,
Yeah. Wow.
just newborns. I was just I never met them because I was only 1 year old and 2 year old. So
Right. But you knew who they were. And you also talked about them in the first episode with your near death experiences that you saw them on the other side, which was beautiful.
oh yeah, it was wonderful to see them, and they were grown. It was beautiful.
To see them as grown men. I bet so. So now tell us. So you saw your guide and you didn't know what it was. You said you saw them a couple times in your childhood and then later on. I'm curious how that unfolded, because so many people, they ask that a lot, like, who are my guides? We're going to know all of them when you cross over. There's a big team, and I think your team changes out some. You know what I mean? Like some stays with you, like this gray eagle. Some stay with you, and then some, and there's more, but then some come and go. So, what was your understanding with guides, and when did you know him to be that?
I didn't know anything about guides or
Most people
near
don't.
death experiences. I didn't even know there was such a thing. I didn't know anything about anything. And it wasn't until these things started happening, I didn't even know what to call them. I didn't know, I thought everybody saw stuff like that. I didn't know, there was anything.
That's right. Yeah, because you were seeing spirits and different things, because you had really early childhood NDEs, but you were seeing spirit too, like me. So when you're a kid, you don't know it's not normal,
Right.
right? Because no one told you that's weird. It takes you many years to realize that it's not
It's
okay.
not until you're
Not okay.
older.
It's not
People tell
normal
you
that
you're
other
weird.
people can't see that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know that I wasn't supposed to be seeing stuff like that. To me, it was just normal. And when I was 13, I had my near-death experience, and when I was 15, I had another very huge experience. That's when I saw Jesus, and I'm not talking about dreams or visions. I'm talking about physical.
Oh
He
yeah.
was solid like you. And
Mhm.
some things have been happening in my life that shouldn't have happened, and I went to an adult about it, and the adults told me, well, it was more adults, several adults, but they told me
Really?
that it wasn't happening. It was in my head.
Was it
And
a pastor or was it family members? You don't have to say exactly. Was it just strangers or
yeah, just so I was told that no, it's not happening. It's in your head. And I said, well, okay. And you're people I trust. If you're telling me it's not happening, when I knew it was happening, I thought I was losing my mind, and I had planned to kill myself, but I didn't tell anybody. Never spoke about it.
Mhm.
And believe me, if you have a child or you know someone that's planning suicide and they don't talk about it, that's when you need to be scared, because people who
Oh, you
talk
needed
about it are
right,
usually the ones that are crying out for attention.
right, and
It's
it can't
when
be
you don't
said.
talk about it that it's serious.
Oh, absolutely. It's I've had more NDErs that have said that crossed their mind because of trauma, but somehow that there was divine intervention. And so go ahead.
Well, this was definitely divine intervention because I never said anything to anyone. And it was a Good Friday, and I was in the youth choir, and it was a big choir, lots of voices, lots of instruments, lots of singing parts. And it was a Good Friday. We went to a neighboring church to sing. And um, so we're sitting in the lower section, the bottom floor, and we're practicing, waiting for our turn to go up the stairs into the main part of the
Mm.
church. The main part of the church had a great big stained glass, round stained glass window, and that was the upper part. We were down on the bottom, and we were practicing. And I was sitting in the way back all by myself because I was just really withdrawn at this point. There were two older women. They were chaperones. They were sitting in front of me, and then in front of them were the daughters of one of the women. And then the rest of the choir was in front of us. And we
Okay.
were practicing. And I looked up, and there was a man that entered the room. Now, how he entered the room, I don't know, because there was only one door in. It was on the street. You had to
So it's
open
one
it.
door, but open two-story, right? And I think you sent a picture here of something similar to it. It was
Right.
just really like a big vaulted ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right. So, in the bottom part that you
Oh,
saw there that had these windows right here,
the big
that's
one.
where we were sitting. You had to go up the stairs to get to
Sure.
where the round window is.
Got it. Okay.
So we're sitting down on the bottom and we're practicing, and I see this man from a distance, and the whole air of the room changed. It, I mean, it was like a whole different energy instantly. It was like I knew there was holiness in that room. And I looked at him and I watched him walk from way across the room, and it was a big room. And he kept walking closer and closer, and he got right up to me, and there was an empty chair beside me, and he sat down in that chair. And as he was sitting down, he grinned and he smiled. I mean, this most beautiful smile I have ever
He's
seen in
got
my
good
life.
teeth, doesn't he? He's got really good teeth.
Yeah, and
He
he's
does.
got dimples. Yeah,
Good
I was
dimples and
like,
really great teeth. Mhm.
yeah, it
Oh,
was the
tell
most
everybody
beautiful
what he had
smile.
on. Tell him what he had on, describe him, because everybody's gonna wanna know that.
Okay, he had very, very long hair, not just up to here. It was long,
Mhm,
and it was dark
mhm.
and wavy. He had dark olive complexion, but he looked like he maybe had a tan on top of this darker skin.
Mm, sure.
Um, he had brown eyes, beautiful, beautiful liquid brown eyes. He had close cut beard, real nice trim beard,
Mhm,
dimples when he smiled. And I
mhm.
mean, his smile, oh my gosh, it was enough to make you melt. It was
I
just
know. It's
so much
really
love coming out of that smile. This is
yeah.
unbelievable. He was about 5'10", 5'11". He was slim built, but muscular. He had on a white button-up shirt, blue jeans, and boots. And I noticed well, I'll tell you that in a minute. So he comes over and he sits down next to me and he says, "Where do I go to sit?" Well, I'm a 15-year-old girl, right? And I'm just sitting here and I'm looking at him and I'm just like, oh my God, that's Jesus. And I could not say a word. My mouth went as dry as a bone. I couldn't
Now,
speak.
so now let me just, this is good because I know people are going to be wanting to know. Not only did he look like Jesus, although you might have been surprised to see him in jeans and some boots, but so he was dressed, I guess, modern, if you want to call it.
Right.
But that it wasn't just the look of him. You said that you felt the energy change in the room. So it wasn't just the sight. It was more than that, wasn't it?
Oh, a lot more than that. It was,
Mhm. It's some good
and
stuff.
I mean, there
Mhm.
was no mistake whatsoever who he was. And that's why when he sat down next to me, I couldn't say anything. And he asked me the question, "Where do I go?" And I'm just like, ah. I couldn't say anything. And I was thinking in my head, Sharon, snap out of it. This is your chance to ask the Lord everything you ever wanted to ask him. And you can't speak. Open your mouth.
Right.
But I couldn't. And I don't even know. He was so, the
Yeah.
love that came
It
out of him was just
was
beyond.
beauty. Just
Yeah.
he
You
so you're sitting there and who's beside you? There's some other women or young girls?
There was two women, excuse me. There was two women sitting in front of me. Um, they heard him ask me the question, and they turned around and um, they the one on the left, the one on the end, she actually answered the question, told him how to get up the stairs, where to go to sit up, to hear us sing. And when she was talking to him and explaining where to go, he looked at me and he said to me, "What is happening to you in your life is happening. You are not crazy. I love you. I'm with you. Don't be afraid." And I was in shock because I had never told anybody, what I thought. And when he got up, he put his finger on the elbow of the lady in front of me that answered his question. She had arthritis in her elbow so bad that she couldn't bend her arm. So when he stood up to go upstairs, he just put his finger just like that on her elbow. And then he walked up the stairs and he went upstairs. And she was like, "Oh my gosh, I can move my arm. It doesn't hurt anymore." She knew who he was. And her two daughters were sitting in front of her. And they saw him too.
So it was four of you total that saw
No,
him?
there was me and four women. So there was five of us total.
Okay.
So it was our turn to go up and sing. And we went up and there was like I don't know if you'd call it an altar or a platform of some sort that we stood at. And we sang our song. It was Up to Jerusalem. I'll never forget it. So he's sitting in one of the front pews, and that big stained glass window was behind it.
Yeah.
And behind him, and he, as we're singing, he puts his hands over his eyes like this. And I don't know if he was crying or praying or remembering, or I don't know what he was doing.
Okay.
But I know that we sang our hearts out. I did. I sang. I don't know if there was anybody else in that church or not, because I was staring at him and I don't,
Well, yeah.
I was singing everything to him.
I would totally be transfixed on him.
Oh, he was so beautiful. And I
Yeah.
mean, physically beautiful, but
Mhm.
the love, the
Yeah.
compassion, the
Mhm.
gentleness, the
Mhm.
understanding, the all of it. I he kept me from killing myself because I really was going to do it. And
And he also gave you hope, didn't he? Because to
he
let
did
people
give me hope.
know
Yeah.
that
Because he said he would always be with me, not to be afraid, that
he
it was okay.
thing. He said, "I'll always be with you." He told me the same thing. Something similar. He didn't show up at a church with all my friends. Praise God, he didn't do that. That's cool. I mean, you win the prize in that one because that is awesome.
Well,
But
I'm glad because I needed the confirmation,
yeah,
because
you
I
did.
thought I was losing my mind, and
Uh,
if he hadn't allowed 4 other people to see him, then I'd probably questioned whether I was
question.
nuts.
I know you said that you and the four other women saw him, but you said other people didn't see him, right?
Right. The rest of the choir did not see him. When we got done singing, he came up to the 2 girls, the daughters of the
Okay.
lady. As he was leaving, he told them he liked our singing. And then he did just like disappeared. He was just gone.
Did he just I mean, he said, "I don't like singing." He just pop, he's gone, or did he walk away and kind of
He
vanish?
walked away, but there was no, I mean, it was like he walked through the wall or something. I don't know. He walked away and he was gone.
Wow. And so the
None of
4
us saw him leave and
did you
through a
compare
door.
notes? The other 4, did you compare notes about
We
this later?
did.
Okay.
Every single year around Easter time, I would call. The 2 girls were good friends of mine. I would call them all the time and I would say, "Did we see that? Did that really happen? You got to tell me that was real." And
Yes.
oh yeah, yeah, we remember it. Yes, it was
Wow.
real. And actually, there's only one person now still living of the 4. And her and I were talking about it. We were together for the 4th of July, a family party, and
Just
we
this
were
past
talking about it this past July.
wow.
And we were talking about it again. And
Wow.
she came to me and she said, "This is what he looked like." And she told me, and I was like, "Yep, that's exactly what."
So you were saying his hair went all the way down
Went all
to
the
his
way. Yeah,
belt
when he got
buckle.
up to walk away, I looked at his back, and he had a belt on around his jeans, around his waist. His hair, the back of his hair went all the way down and practically, like to the top of where his jeans are. So I could see his hair and I could see his belt. And it was like, I never thought Jesus had hair that long, but it was the most beautiful hair I've ever seen in my life.
So didn't you say that you researched that and found out that rabbis had the more senior rabbis had the longer hair, right?
I spoke to a priest friend of mine. He's Archbishop actually, in the UK, and he studies the shroud. And I talked to him about it, and he said yes, that the rabbis would have had longer hair than the typical man back in that time period.
Yeah.
And that when Jesus was crucified, they put his hair back in a ponytail held by
Mhm.
something called plates. And so his hair goes all the way down his spine, a straight piece of hair all the way down his spine. And you can see it on the shroud. There's a couple videos out there
That it was how long it was.
of talking about that very thing. And those are just recent videos because I questioned, people were questioning me and Jesus didn't have hair that long, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm
How would
sorry,
you
but
know? How would you know? You know what I mean? I mean, there's drawings of them, and one of the things I was telling you about, since we're talking about Jesus, our favorite subject, I was talking with a lady that Glenda Green that I found out through another woman. I was supposed to do a women's expo, and then everything stopped because this whole pandemic business. But anyway, he this woman was telling me about this Glenda Green who painted this picture of Jesus and this whole story and how she channels and had this experience. She saw him and all this stuff. He came to her, similar body type, I guess, as you're saying, but his hair was shorter. But it's not like you can't look. I've had shorter and longer hair. It's still me. You know what I mean? It's not like
Right.
you can't cut your hair or grow it. I mean, it's not. I don't think people should get hung up on that. And to me, he did not. He looked. He looked like a foreigner. No, he didn't look. He didn't. He didn't look like
He
anyone
wasn't
I've
white
seen.
skin and blonde hair. I'm
Well,
sorry.
he did have highlights in it because he looked like he'd been outdoors. He looked real healthy,
Right.
but
Exactly.
he did have darker skin. It was like it was an olive tint for sure. But I can't really say anyone I've seen that looks like him. He did not look Caucasian.
Right.
He looked like just his own person, but he didn't look like honestly anyone I could really point out. He did.
There
I
aren't
know
any
that sounds
pictures
odd.
that do him justice. I'm sorry.
I know that sounds odd. I know he was very beautiful. I mean, physically, and of course, the love was just intoxicating. But let's go on to now. I will tell you, you did send me this thing, and I think that it's beautiful. A woman friend of yours, one of the ladies, Terry, that was there with you. And I thought it would be cool if we just said a couple things she wrote you and just to validate. I saw him. I was there. And she said, I know we shared a lot of things since we're young. This is your friend Terry who was there and said one of them is when we saw Jesus in the church that Good Friday is something that I'll never forget. Yeah. The light and love that shone around and in him, the softness of his voice and touch. It was my mother who was healed that day when he softly touched her elbow. My sister and I were witness to that. My mother and sister have since gone to be with him. I remember thinking how blessed we were that he would choose that day to come visit. His beauty was so magnificent. That's what I'm saying. Just every which way, just beautiful.
Yeah.
The deepness of his eyes, as though he could look straight into your soul. Exactly. Oh my God. I can't, I don't even want to get choked up if I could read the rest of this. As a young child, I thought that he would stay with us forever. His smile lit up everything. He said he loved our singing as
Yep.
he was walking around talking with everyone. Sharon and my mother and sister and I were sharing what we knew to be true. When we turned around to see him again, he was no longer there. It's just like he disappeared. I still talk to him every day and thank him for loving me unconditionally. Oh, so beautiful. I'll never forget that day in the church, and I'm grateful that I could share it with Sharon. That's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. It's amazing that all these other people were there, but he chose those women to see him. And you're right. I think a lot of it has to do, whatever reasons he has with them, but with you, because he wanted you to not be alone, and he wanted you to know that it happened, which is one of the messages that you kept getting in this earth plane was no, it didn't happen. And you had other women saying, yes, it did. This particular thing did happen. So, wow, that is just amazing. I can't imagine Jesus telling people that he liked this singing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just, I mean, I would be like, okay. So, all right. So from there, I mean, how do you beat that story? But I know you've seen him again and his mama. So I don't know how to beat that story, but so go on to the next one, even though I really would like to hover here, but we'll get back to Jesus.
Okay. I have seen many angels. I have seen beautiful, what I would call good angels.
Yeah,
And I
holy.
have also experienced, God wanted me to experience
I hear
the
you.
not so good
Mm-hmm.
because there were spirits all around all the time. And I thought everybody was good.
I
I
did
never
too.
thought anything about it. And he was like, no, you got to understand there is good and there is not good. There is light and there is dark and there is, you know,
Mhm.
and not every angel is a good angel. And
Like the fallen ones or what have you that they
exactly.
talk about in the book of Enoch.
There's definitely a spiritual battle right now. There's definitely. And there definitely is evil. And the information that I got was that people who think that evil doesn't exist, they're being they're falling for the lies, and he is the father of lies. And if he can get you to believe he's not real and
All
that
the better.
anything you do is okay,
It's all the better.
then yeah, he's got you where he wants you, and that's exactly how it is. But God showed me there really was evil, and evil is awful.
Well, it's
It's
discernment. It's important we have.
exactly. He was
I think
teaching me how to discern what
it's
was good and
important
what
we
wasn't.
discern, and I think God allows just to kind of, just to kind of throw my 2 cents in here, because I've done about 15 or so deliverances. I don't like to. And I only do it if Jesus says for me to do that. I'll ask him if he wants me to, and then I'll do it if he really wants. He's told me, she's mine. I love her. Please. I was like, oh, okay. I always do it like, oh, okay. But is that some people, sometimes people make mistakes and maybe they get involved with things they shouldn't, or people. And I don't need to go down this road, what that could be. I mean, fill in the blanks, could be dark things they're involved with. There's redemption, I believe, for everybody. Everybody, that Christ's love is so big. There's redemption for everybody. He loves everybody, and people make mistakes. We need to have discernment because we don't want to be taken off of our mission and our path and have our relationship broken with God. Talk about maybe the Mother Mary, because that was good.
Oh, okay. My mother passed away from Alzheimer's.
Oh, God
It was
bless
a
her.
week after she died. I was sitting out in the backyard. I was heartbroken, even though I know where she was. I was heartbroken.
Of course.
And I'm sitting outside, and Mary, she appears in my parents' backyard, and she's wearing a blush pink gown. I could see her beautiful brown hair, long, wavy brown hair, dark hair. I don't know if it's brown or black. I don't know. To me, it was a very dark color. And she had a blush pink veil on her head. And she had her hands folded like this. And her eyes were shut. I could see her lashes, her lips, her face. She was absolutely breathtaking. And she stayed with me for about a half an hour as I'm sitting there, and I'm staring at her, and I'm waiting for her to open her eyes and talk. I didn't want to interrupt her prayer, but then it came to me. She was letting me know that my mom was there with her, because my mom's name was Mary. And my mom was dedicated to Mary when she was a baby. They laid her as an infant at the feet of Mary. And for the first 7 years of her life, she wore blue and white dresses. And on her 7th birthday, she was so happy because she got to wear a red dress. But she lived her life like Mary did. Mary would pray about things. Mary would ponder things. Mary, she was a 12-year-old girl when she became pregnant with Jesus, right? So, I mean, and back in that day, she would have been killed because she wasn't married. So she would have been killed for that.
Right.
But she was like, okay, whatever your will is, God, I will do whatever you want, be it done to me. And my mom was like that. And she just loved Mary so much that...
What a beautiful testimony. And to comfort both of you. I mean, it was to let you know the comfort in praying for you, but also your mother was, with her. I mean, how beautiful. And I feel like that Mary shows up for women and children a lot. I'm not saying men that excludes, but my experience has been that she's this female energy seems to really be around the children and also the women I see. I don't know what you feel about that. Did you grow up Catholic? You did, didn't you?
Yes. And no, we don't pray to statues, and no, we don't, we're not praying to idols or anything like that. A
Oh no.
statue of Mary is nothing more than like you carrying a picture of your child in your
Look,
wallet.
I've got so many pictures of Jesus everywhere. It's not even funny. And I've got this big statue that a friend sent me. I love when people send me Jesus stuff. I get real excited. Just don't send me any creepy Jesus stuff, but I've got them all over the place. I don't have any Mother Mary. No, that's not true. That's not true. I ordered a cameo for a friend, a Mother Mary. And for some reason, I accidentally ordered two, you know, and I could have been drinking wine at the time I placed that order on Amazon. And, but I said, well, I'll save this for someone else with Mother Mary. And then I looked at it and I just knew that I was supposed to keep it. And I don't know why. They said it's like, that one for me. And I said, it's funny. I'll tell you real quick my Mother Mary story, which ties in. I was telling you when I was a kid, people don't know this. So we're just having a little, like a, spiritual girl chat. But when I was a kid, and what was I in first grade? They asked me, and they had a school play, if I wanted to be Mary. I didn't know who she was. I mean, because we weren't religious. My grandmother, we was Presbyterian, but she told me about Jesus, but we were not religious. We didn't, my mom said that she didn't tell me anything. I mean, she's, all that's different now, but she was under a lot of, what do you call it? She had abusive husband thing, and he didn't want to talk about God. So I didn't know who she was, to be honest. I'm like, well, who is this Mary? And this is a big honor. And I'm like, well, what kind of speaking parts does she have? And he goes, none. And I said, don't you have a speaking part? And so I didn't even know who she was. And I had to have an outfit made. And my mom was like, no, it's an honor. And I was like, I'm just sitting there holding this like baby doll. And so, but I had to have, they said, you look like Mary. So I had to have an outfit made and everything. And it was some big to do. And now I look back on it, go, oh my God, the Lord's got patience and grace, because here I am, don't even have a clue when I could. And it was like, even as a kid, that would have been an honor. And I'm like, I wasn't even aware. And I'm thinking, oh gosh, boy, does he have patience?
I have always wanted to be someone to play Mary and to have that. And I have no one ever picked me, picked me.
Not true, because when I talked to you, I said I had a vision of Mother Mary, and I'm not Catholic. I didn't know I know who she is now. Okay. I know who she is, but she came to me. I woke up taking a nap, and she had a dove on one side. It came out of her hand, and then a fire. And then she started talking about the Rose of Sharon. You're a sister of the Rose of Sharon.
Oh.
Until I talked to you, I looked it up, and it said, Jesus said, well, my name's Sharon after that. And so when you said, I've never been Mary, I just heard, no, you're a sister of the Rose of Sharon. So that's not true. You're considered, I don't know, family. I don't know. And so, but yeah, she said something. It was like, right out of Revelations. And it was like, God is the Alpha and the Omega. He sees everything that's going on. God is in control, kind of thing. I wrote it all down. But to me, that was powerful, because I didn't grow up Catholic. And when she showed up, I went, Mother Mary. I said, hey, so, I've had other religions come too. Well, that's not really true. How about, yeah, I have. I've had Sai Baba. I've had different Indian people. I've had not Sadhguru, I've had, Yogananda. I've had different ones, and readings show up for those people that knew them, because that's their safe person, So, I mean, it's, I always say Team God is it's big, holy is holy, right? From all religions, holy is holy. That's just, my reference. So, and she was very pretty and very feminine and strong.
Yeah.
And I felt her presence the first time at a friend of mine's house, that had a statue of Mother Mary, and outside at her pool, I was smelling roses. There were no roses, but it was the smell of Mother Mary. And when she comes around, I smell roses. And then when Jesus comes around, I smell lavender. It's just my cue when they're around, what I smell. So, which are good smells. So that's good. So, tell us a little bit. And then we'll end with Jesus, about the great eagle, about this whole guide thing, because again, that's part of Team God helping us out.
Wow. He was big. He was really big. He came back from heaven with me from my second near-death experience.
Wow.
And he stayed with me for, oh my gosh, 5 years or more.
So do you remember him exactly? And then also maybe mention about you've got a Native American background.
Mhm.
I don't know if that relates, but
Well, he's Lakota. And I did not, that's him right there. And he is with, at the Wild Bill Cody show. That's Bill Cody right there.
are
And
you
that's him.
serious?
Yeah.
Fascinating.
And he actually did live. He died in June of
Here it is.
1935.
There's the
This is the
census.
1930 census where he signed it. Um, they were usually given Christian first names or European first names,
Okay.
but but they're like Gray Eagle became his last name,
Got
even
it.
though that was his name. On the census, if you look at the census, you'll see that they gave him the name Gabriel.
Gabriel, Gray Eagle. Gabriel, I'm thinking, what is that? The messenger of God. What a great
Yeah.
name.
Oh, yeah.
You
Oh,
can't get a better name than that. I mean, that's I said, well, Michael's pretty good too, but yeah. So, how did he start appearing? There's some more images of him. You saw him in heaven. Did you come back with a recollection of who he is? There he is there, older.
yeah. That's an older picture of him. Um, he he just started appearing to me, and
Of
the
course.
first time he appeared to me, it was in my spare bedroom. I was putting laundry away, and I
Oh,
walked into the spare bedroom to put some laundry away, and there's this man standing in there. And it took me a minute to, I was like, because he was so solid. I mean, he looked just, he had the buckskin pants. He had the two feathers in his hair. I mean, he was magnificent, but it didn't register in my head immediately that this is the same guy I saw when I was a kid.
yeah, in the
It took me
field.
a little while to register because I mean, here's this half
You were
naked guy
grown up.
standing in my bedroom.
Yeah, that's all. I mean, I'm surprised you didn't, scream or, oh, there's a man in my bedroom. But you were grown, right? You had your own
Yes,
kids
I
at
was
that point.
grown.
Yeah,
This was
yeah.
after my near-death experience. Yes.
Okay. So why do you think he appeared? It's in such an intimate place. Why not outdoors? Why at all? I mean, what do you think? He wanted to get your attention
He got my attention.
because, there he is. You can't really, did he pass a message along to you?
Well, he started talking to me, and I couldn't understand a word he was saying. He was speaking in Lakota. Well, I don't speak Lakota. I'm sorry. And I told him when he kept talking, I said, "You're going to have to speak so I can understand you, or we are not going to get along very well because I can't understand a word you're saying." Well, so in mid-sentence, he starts speaking in English. At first, it was kind of broken English, and then it got better as he kept talking it.
I see.
But when he first came to me, he was trying to teach me about Native, how names change. You're given a name when you're a child,
Yeah.
based on what your parents saw or what they felt or, whatever, whatever fit, whatever your parents felt, spiritually that fit that child, they would name that child. Well, when the child gets a little older and they do vision quests and things like that, then the name changes. When they become grown, then he went away. And then he came back a couple days later. And I'm like, and he's telling me this time his name is Gray Eagle. And I'm like, dude, you're only gone for 2 days. What are you talking about? Your name changed already? And he said that he had done something good. He'd counted coup, is what he said. I counted coup and I got a good name. My name changed. Well, if you understand that there's no time in heaven.
Right.
So what he was teaching me a concept of how the names change and how he had done something good and his name had changed. And he was Gray Eagle. He is Gray Eagle. And I don't know what the man's name was when he was a little boy. I don't know, if he had had a different name when he was a little boy. I'm assuming he did. But the man, his family, he still has living relatives, still has living family. I was contacted by a historian. There was a man who came to one of my talks about my near-death experience, and he wanted to talk about Gray Eagle. He was more interested in him than he was and the reason why is because that man is connected to the Lakota. He goes out to Pine Ridge every year, and he helps. He's got dear friends that live there, and so he was so interested in this Lakota man that kept appearing to me. And so he got in touch with a friend of his who was a historian who also worked with the Lakota. And what he does is he gathers artifacts from, people who lived before or whatever. And he would try to find the living family members of the people who own those artifacts. And then he would give the family the artifacts because it belongs to them. And if he couldn't find a family, he would put the artifacts in a museum.
That is amazing. Now, tell us real quick, this picture here, this drawing, where'd you get that from? That's him young, right?
That's what he looked like when he appeared to me, because they all appear to me younger.
Okay. In the pasture. Okay.
Yeah. And that's his white horse. And if you look up in the corner, you see the eagle coming out of the sky.
Okay.
Up in the one corner, you can see the beak of the eagle.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
An artist friend drew that, and I told him, Gregor, you need to go to this guy and let him see you. And he did.
Did he? Did he do it?
That's exactly what he looks like.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that my granddaughter saw him. My grandson saw him. There were other people that saw him. It wasn't just me. And they all said, my granddaughter and grandson both described him down to the scar on his arm. Just minute details of this man. I was in the kitchen downstairs checking the food in the oven, and my granddaughter comes running down the stairs. She was upstairs playing, and she says, Grandma, I heard 3 knocks on the wall, and your Indian angel's upstairs and wants to talk to you. And I about hit my head on the stove, and I was like, what? You saw him? And she said, yes. And I said, to tell me what does he look like? And perfect description. Well, my grandson also told me he was outside in the backyard playing one day. Gray Eagle appeared, and he saw him, and the two of them were sizing each other up. I said, did he say anything to you? And he said, no, we just stood there and stared at each other. And I asked him, I said, well, what does he look like? And he told me the same exact thing, down to the scar on the arm. It was like, I was like blown away. I was like, thank you. Again,
did you notice that? He allowed them to see him, kind of like Jesus allowed those women to see him, to give you validation, because that was validating. He said, yes, you are seeing that. And the fact that he's real, and the census, you found the census. So how many times other than when you were doing laundry and in the field, how many times have you seen him? Or is he just, how does this relationship work?
He would come almost daily.
Okay. So you would see him physically.
I could see him physically. He was so physical. He was such a strong spirit. He was so physical. He could sit in a chair. He could pull the chair aside, sit down in a chair. He could hold my hand. There were many times he would teach me things by taking me for a walk in the backyard. And he would say, come walk with me. And he would take my hand and hold my hand and help me down the stairs. And we'd go down the stairs, because he knew I died on those stairs. about to go down them by myself. So he'd walk me down the stairs and into the backyard, and he would start teaching me things. We had one day there was a beautiful eagle flying in the sky, and he pointed to the eagle, and he was teaching me about how mankind always takes everything as black and white. And he said, there's things in this world are not just black and white, and he was talking about the white head and the brown body with the various shades of gray in the wings and the white tail. And he was using this beautiful, magnificent eagle as a way to teach me that he even said the words. He said that mankind thinks this world is just black and white. And it's not just black and white. There are various shades of gray. And within those various shades of gray is where you're going to find the truth. And I mean, he taught me so many things. I can't even. He taught me if I got lost out in the woods, to look for the waterfowl and follow them, and they would lead me to water. He taught me that if I'm facing east, which I don't know my directions anymore because the lightning has screwed up my compass, right? So he said, that the sun rises in the east and it sets in the west. So if you face the east, your right hand is this direction and your left hand is this direction. Always remember that, so you'll know where you are. He taught me about, when leaves flip over on a tree, what does that mean? It means impending storm is coming. He taught me about birds and different birds, and when they fly in certain directions, it means certain things. He taught me about something called, it was a very ancient, he said it was passed on by word of mouth. It was a healing, some kind of healing method. And it was with he called it bear medicine, but it's not the same kind of bear medicine that you can look up online. It's not that, because the way he told me was that the medicine person would put their hands on the ill person, say certain prayers, pull the illness out of the person and into themselves. And then the medicine person would have to go out into this stone. He called it a medicine wheel, and it was a stone thing.
Okay.
And the medicine person would go out into this wheel and would stomp their feet and clap their hands and do some kind of stomp dance to get the illness out of themselves and into the ground, so that if they didn't do that, then they would become sick with whatever it was they pulled out of the person. And I mean, there were so many things. He taught me so many things.
So in life, when he was, living at that time period, the before 1930s, was he a shaman? Did you find out much about him? Was he a shaman, or
he was a delegate at Standing Rock. He also was Sitting Bull's brother-in-law. And he was the first to adopt Western wear, modern,
Really?
Yes. And he went to Sitting Bull, and he told Sitting Bull, you have got to go to the reservations. You've got to do what the white man is saying, because if you don't, our people are going to die. And so Sitting Bull was like, no, that's not happening. And if you follow what the white man says, I'm not going to be with you anymore. That's how it'll be. So they split, and they had their own band, I guess, their own whatever. And he kept trying to get Sitting Bull to go to the reservation, because he was going to get killed. And it turned out that he ended up getting killed by the tribal police. And Gray Eagle went there to protect his sisters, who was the wives of Sitting Bull. And he took his sisters and his his nieces and nephews into his band, and he took care of them after Sitting Bull's death.
Very
But there was, some tension between the two of them, because Gregel was like, look, you got to get up with the times here. You got to, as bad as it is,
if you don't do something, you're going to be, extinguished.
they're going to kill you.
And they did.
That was also at the time of the emerging ghost dance. And, the white soldiers were just paranoid and schizophrenic over this beautiful, magnificent spiritual dance that was taking place here. And they just totally missed the mark on what that dance was all about. And so they just killed everybody because they didn't get it. And
they got spooked. They were doing something else kind of weird, or
well, it was nothing more than the Holy Spirit coming down on them, and and they were dancing and praying for the buffalo to come back, because the buffalo was their source of food, their source of clothing, their tools, their everything was the buffalo.
So it frightened the white soldiers.
It frightened the white soldiers, and they just, of course, you can't blame the footmen. They were just being ordered to do whatever their commanding officers told them to do.
Right.
But I want to get my hands on those commanding officers because it's like, you don't get it. You don't understand it. You don't have a right to tell a group of people what they can and can't pray the way they want to pray. I mean, they weren't hurting anybody. And it was nothing more than, you praying in the Spirit or me praying in the Spirit. They were praying in the Spirit, and the way they knew how, which is through dance.
Right. I think dance is great. I mean, if haven't you ever heard a song and kind of sway to it and get into it? I mean,
oh yeah.
And you're dancing in the Spirit. So, this great eagle, you're still in communication with him, and he talks to you regularly still, right?
Unfortunately, no, he went away.
Really? Where did he go?
It broke my heart.
Oh no, I'm sorry to bring it up.
That's why I told you I was going to punch him when I died.
Oh, was that why? So when did he leave? He must have thought you had it down pat for him to leave.
Well,
it's like you graduated.
He came, I think, to teach me. I was not raised in a Native tradition at all. I knew nothing. I still don't know, except what he taught me. That's it. But he wanted me to embrace that part of myself. And since I wasn't raised in it, I didn't have a teacher. I didn't know anybody. And where I live, there is nobody. Mm-hmm. So who was going to teach me? There were a lot of very, very spiritual things that I really can't, expand on at this time, because I don't know exactly what they mean.
Okay. That's fair enough.
And until I learn what they mean, I can't, there's some things that are just.
Well, with a lot of people, people are in the middle of spiritually understanding their own personal journey as it unfolds. And we don't have all the answers. I mean, I'm seeing UFOs, getting ET communications. WTF? What does that mean? I have no idea. I'm gonna be honest. I'm like, what? You gotta laugh about it because it's not.
UFO. I would be scared.
What's really weird is that I wasn't, when I saw it in August, my husband said, look, we're going to Asheville for 4 days. And it was the weirdest reaction. I have to be honest. Normally you'd think, oh, that would freak me out. And we saw it. It was hovering over the car and it was really big. And I was like, yeah. And when it left, I was really sad. Like I wanted to cry. I was so upset. I was like, darn. And I'm like, that's not a normal reaction. So I think they must be family. It was funny when I wanted to know. I had a prayer like, I'd like to really know more of my family. I didn't know. I thought it'd be ancestry. I didn't know it'd be that, I'm like, I should have contacted ancestry. So tell us the Jesus story about you being when you were in the kitchen, kind of set that up and how you saw him.
I was taking care of my mother the last 6.5 years of her life. She died of Alzheimer's. And this was about a year before she died. And it had been a particularly rough day. And it was so hard to watch her disappear. And there wasn't anything I could do to save her. And I was really upset. I later put her down for a nap. And to decompress, I go and I clean. So I went into the kitchen and I was cleaning the floor, mopping the floor, just minding my own business, just scrubbing away. And I hear this, and I turn around because I wasn't sure what was going on. And there he's standing there, just as solid as you. And he's got his arms crossed like this and his feet crossed at the ankles. And he was wearing he looked exactly the same. You know, the long hair and all of it. He looked exactly the same. And he had on a white, really nice linen tunic type shirt and these brown khaki pants. And he had his feet crossed at the ankles. And I looked at his feet and I thought, wow, you've got the most beautiful feet for a guy. My gosh, you know, he was just, he exuded.
Yeah, he does.
And I've had people ask me before, did you go lift up his pant leg and see if there was any scars? And I'm like, no, why would I do that? I knew exactly who he was.
Weird. Why would you do that? Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't need scars to tell me who he was.
Yeah.
But he told me, and after being in heaven 4 times and being sent back 4 times, I started to feel like I had been kicked out of heaven, that I had done something wrong. And I kept saying to God, you know, what is your problem? You know, do I stink? Do I have bad breath? BO? You don't like my perfume? What is it?
You were a little angry, a little frustrated.
I was really hurt by it. And I was like, I don't get it. It just doesn't make sense to me. What is wrong? And so, and I never told anybody, nobody, just God. That's it. I kept it to myself. I would cry about it. I would have my little temper tantrum and then I'd go about my business. Well, Jesus that day, he said to me, he said, you cry because you think I've cast you away from me when you were in heaven, and that's so far from the truth. He said, everything that's happened to you in your life has happened to prepare you for this job I have for you. I'm like, what job? And he said, when you are scared, when you are lonely, when you are afraid, when you feel like you can't take another step, I want you to give that all to me because I'm strong enough to carry that. And I want you to love. That's what you do best. So that's what I want you to do. And you just give all that other stuff to me and I'll take care of it. Don't you worry about it. And I thought, okay, I can do that. But the thing that was so, I don't have words to say what it meant to me because I never said anything to anybody. And that's when I realized he's the reader of hearts. He's the healer of hearts.
He knows everything.
He knows. I don't have to say a word. He knew. And he knew exactly what to say to make that pain go away. I wasn't kicked out of heaven, you know.
And so he gave you a job. So your job is to love. Sharon, you have been so fun, so fascinating, so interesting. And this is just a portion of some of your spiritual experiences. And it means so much to me personally that you share them with me and also to my viewers. It means a lot.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was an honor. It really is.
Oh, thank you. And I look forward to having you back on because it's so much fun. I love speaking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.